You close one bad trade, and for a moment it looks like the problem is finished. The position is gone, the risk is gone, and the trade is over. But inside the trader, something is still moving. The chart is still open, the candles are still changing, and the hand is still close to the mouse. This is the moment where many traders lose control, not because one trade destroyed them, but because the emotion after that trade is still alive. One bad trade is usually not the real problem. The real problem is what happens next. A losing trade can be normal. A losing reaction can become destructive. And this video is about that exact moment. The moment where one bad trade either stays one bad trade or becomes the beginning of emotional trading. Logically, one losing trade should not mean much. A setup can fail, timing can be wrong, the market can reverse, and even a good idea can lose. That is part of trading. If the risk was controlled and the plan was followed, then the loss is just one result inside a much bigger process. But emotionally, it does not always feel that simple. When a trade loses, you are not only risking money. You are trusting your idea, your read, your timing, and your decision. So when the market moves against you, the loss does not only hit the account, it hits confidence. It can feel like the market proved you wrong, and suddenly the trader does not just want to manage the loss, he wants to fix how the loss feels. That is the dangerous shift. The trader stops seeing the loss as information and starts seeing it as something that must be erased immediately. And once a loss becomes personal, the next decision is no longer clean. This is where the real damage often begins. The trader stays on the chart, watches every candle, and tells himself he is just waiting for another clean setup. But many times, he is not really waiting for clarity. He is waiting for relief. He wants the money back, he wants the frustration gone, and he wants to feel in control again. The problem is that this changes the way the market looks. Weak setups begin to look acceptable. Risk starts to feel flexible. Patience becomes harder. Standards become lower. The trader is still looking at the same chart, but he is no longer looking from the same state of mind. He is no longer calmly reading the market. He is trying to repair discomfort. This is how one bad trade becomes two or three. Not because the first loss was catastrophic, but because it opened the door to emotional decision-making. The first trade may have been normal. The reaction after it is where the spiral begins. Very often, the first trade is not the one that damages the trader the most. Maybe it followed the plan. Maybe it was a valid setup that simply failed. That happens. But the second trade after frustration is often the one that causes the real problem, because now the trader is operating from a completely different mental state. He becomes more impulsive, more selective, and more willing to see what he wants to see. He notices anything that supports entering again and ignores anything that warns him to wait. The goal is no longer to trade well. The goal is to feel better, and the market does not reward that. The market does not care that your last trade lost. It does not care that you want the money back. It does not care that you feel frustrated, embarrassed, or impatient. The market is not there to repair your emotions. That is why revenge trading feels active, but it is not intelligent. It feels like control, but most of the time it is the loss of control. A professional trader understands something very important. After a bad trade, the first job is not to recover money. The first job is to protect clarity. That means slowing down when the emotional trader wants to speed up. It means stepping back before taking another decision. It means asking a better question. Not how do I make it back, but am I still clear enough to trade? That question matters, because after a loss, the chart may look the same, but you do not. Your mind may be carrying frustration, urgency, ego, or the need to prove something. And if that state is ignored, the next trade is already compromised before it begins. Sometimes the best response is simple. Take your hand off the mouse, stand up, breathe, and write down what happened. Was the setup valid? Was the risk respected? Did you follow the plan, or did you force something? This short pause creates distance between the event and the reaction. And that distance is powerful, because if one bad trade does not automatically lead to another emotional trade, the damage stops there. The loss stays small, the lesson stays visible, and the trader keeps control of himself. This is the real rule. One bad trade must stay one bad trade. That is how disciplined traders survive. Not by avoiding every loss, not by being right all the time, and not by controlling every outcome, but by refusing to let one bad moment change their behavior. They do not let one losing trade change their standards. They do not let one mistake destroy the rest of the session. They do not let one emotional hit turn into a spiral. Because the goal in trading is not perfection. The goal is stability. You're not trying to prove that you can control the market. You are trying to prove that you can control yourself. That is a completely different standard. One is based on ego. The other is based on process. And once you understand that, a bad trade becomes easier to handle. It is no longer a personal attack. It becomes something to review, something to learn from, and then something to leave behind. So the next time a trade goes wrong, remember this. The trade itself is not always the biggest threat. The bigger threat is what you do after it. If you chase, force, lower your standards, or try to win back emotional comfort through another position, that is where the real damage begins. But if you pause, reset, and protect your discipline, then one bad trade remains exactly what it should be. One bad trade. The emotional trader wants to feel better immediately. The disciplined trader wants to stay consistent tomorrow. The emotional trader reacts to pain. The patient trader protects the process. And that is why one bad trade is not the problem. The problem begins when one bad trade becomes permission to abandon the trader you are trying to become. If you like this video, please like, comment, or subscribe to The Patient Trader.